All right, Reusse Unchained, presented by Josh Arnold, investment consultant, Mr. Money Talk. Dex was at the ballpark watching the Twins dramatically defeat those feisty White Sox, but the three of us were at Target Center last night,
Yes,
Pat.
and let me just say before we get into the Wolves, which might be topic A here, but I think that was a really bad loss for the White Sox chances to recover from this, don't you? I think emotionally they got to be a little bit down now that they're now that they now that they won even when they won a game they still lost it. So
Yep,
that's
poor White
really a bad
Sox.
bad situation. 3-20. 3-20. That's unbelievable.
It's
But
so bad.
anyway, you know what else is unbelievable? And there's some stats coming out off the Wolves game that are incredible. 31-2 on turnovers, they outscored them. 31-2. And and what Frank Vogel told us before the game was we got to get out and run. And they didn't let them get out and run.
Right.
They only threw up 24 threes or something like that. The Wolves are doing a wonderful job of guarding the perimeter
Yeah.
because you don't have to really guard it inside. You can let that Nurkic or whatever his name is get
Nurkic,
20.
yeah.
Nurkic, and you can still, if he gets 20, so what? As long as they aren't bombing in threes. And I'm sure not having the miserable lout Grayson Allen is hurting him too. Because but although even before he got hurt, he'd only gotten 2, 3 shots off, right? And
Yeah,
they're
but he spaces and you have to account for him. So
mhm.
that's but when he came out of the game, I think it was tied or it was like a 1 point
Oh
game,
yeah.
and then when he came out of the game, it was just open
Well,
season for the Wolves.
the one thing, the amazing thing about this is they end up winning easy, and they were terrible in the first half. They weren't terrible defensively, and Jaden McDaniels was still was doing some things, but 51-50, and I don't know. We all said to each other, "Man, they're lucky to only be down one." Or didn't you
Yeah.
feel that way at halftime because they hadn't played well? And then
Definitely.
the third quarter is definitely the time that they make hay because they just shut them down completely. And I thought, obviously McDaniel's was the story; he was out of his mind. But I thought Cat was pretty good for not making shots. He
Hmm.
didn't play stupid. He didn't do. He had like one idiotic play, one idiotic foul, and that was pretty good. But I never thought I haven't seen him often meld into what's going on there. He didn't have to run through anybody or run over anybody or, beg to get some shots. He took his shots when they came, and I thought he was really good too.
And they've got the Suns so frustrated. Booker's a mess. Like he is
Oh,
so
yeah.
frustrated, and there's no time and space for him.
No. And I got home and was watching the poll like at 10:30 or quarter to 11, some ESPN. I think it might have been on NBA.com, but they were breaking it down. And this guy was saying he is not a point guard. You took one of the three best shooting guards in the world, and because you went and got a high profile guard who's not a point guard, Bradley
Yeah.
Beal, now
Yeah.
they have Devin Booker trying to do things that aren't Devin Booker. That they let Chris Paul go, who was a point guard, an
Yeah.
old point guard, but a point guard, and that they don't. How can you spend? How can you be that far over the salary cap and not have even a backup point guard that you want to use on the bench? Who do they use off the bench? Who's their other guard?
Well, they're literally playing an 8-man rotation.
Yeah,
And so they're not, and Eubanks is coming off the bench.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they don't have great ball handlers for the type of defense the Wolves are
Yes,
playing, especially.
yes, yeah. It is. It is amazing, though, that they come in here on that last Sunday and it looks like a mismatch in their favor, and you wonder what are they going to do. And when you saw Finch after the game, and even early in the week, it was like, hey, this is a great We got five. Isn't it great that we got 5 days to,
Yeah.
figure out how to play him? And man, I think he's the NBA Coach of the Year. I don't think there's any doubt about it. They were 66-1 to win the Suns were 6-1. They were 66-1 when the season started.
Yeah. And it almost, I know it doesn't operate this way, but it should almost be a 2-year arc where if you went back to the day that trade was made and then the way that it kind of looked early on, the Gobert trade, and now you fast forward, this is exactly what I'm sure Chris Finch and Tim Connolly behind the scenes envisioned before they made the trade, but it took a year of clunkiness for you to figure it out. Like on a 2-year arc, it's amazing work that Chris Finch has done.
Well, and Rudy last year, we said you can't get him more than 4 feet away from the basket. He's out there chasing guys around on the perimeter at times yesterday.
Yeah.
He's all revved up and trying to go play defense anywhere he can. And he's really a good shooter on those dunks, too. He makes those very well. He's a fine dunker, isn't he? So,
he is,
and he's making his free throws, for goodness sake. So I heard somebody say this, and they're right, though. When Rudy makes a free throw, it like lifts up the whole crowd. Everybody's like, hey, they get all jacked up again because they don't have to groan. And then he goes up and makes 2 out of 2. And I can't imagine this survey that they take every year, the Athletic takes every year on certain things. And Rudy's always the most overrated player. Why is that? How does he have that many enemies, I wonder?
Well, I think part of it is he
beside the fact he gave the world COVID, beside that,
yeah. I think he clearly he's not in the good old boys club like the LeBron, Chris Paul. Like there's some players that travel together and they're friendly. I don't think his goal is he's kind of throwback and he's not looking to make friends with the players that he's competing against, and so I don't think they like his personality. I don't think they like his game because it's this sort of clunky, unorthodox game, but. Yeah. To your point, he's literally out there guarding. I've seen in the first 2 games on the perimeter, him guarding Booker, him guarding Durant, him guarding Beal on switches, and he's holding his own.
Yeah. And if you can't, if you're 22 feet from or 20 feet from the basket, 22 feet from the basket, and this big guy comes out running towards you and you can't go around him, then what are you going to do? It is I mean, as I said, they were spectacular. I mean, they had a few dull moments on Saturday, but they were spectacular Saturday. They, as a team. But last night they weren't that great, and they still won comfortably. Because I mean, if this is going to be the real Jaden McDaniels, look out! They are a handful in because I mean, have you ever seen anything like it from him?
No, that was he's had some regular season games here and there, but in terms of just like all-encompassing aggressiveness, offense, defense, that's about the best version we've seen. Yeah.
And trying to punch Booker is better than trying to punch a wall. Everybody's used that whole
whole
time. And,
you'd rather just take the technical and set the tone than be out for the whole series.
Yeah, just don't connect with him.
Yeah. But it's well, I mean, to in his defense, to some degree, for 2/3 of the games, they just stick him down in the corner and stay out of the way, and teams don't guard him. But after last night, they're gonna have to guard him because he's gonna go around them. He made a couple of threes, but it was going around people that were amazing, slashing to the basket. We just haven't seen that.
What's the Suns' move, Pat?
I don't know, especially if Grayson Allen he looked worse leaving the court yesterday than he did leaving the court Saturday. I don't think he's coming back, and they need him to hit some shots. He hadn't hit any yet, but they obviously need him. I don't know. It's amazing what you think you're going to see, and then you see it. It's now the only, and I'm saying this in all seriousness. Now our only problem is overconfidence, not of the players, but of the, they're not going to sweep. Okay, it's not Wolves in 4. They're going to lose one of those down in Phoenix, and probably the game 3, I would guess, and then, but I think it's. What are the odds? What are the 2-0 odds of series in the NBA? That's got to be floating around.
It's not great. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but it's definitely not great.
90% or high 80%.
By the way, someone put out the note that there's been like in the last 20 or 30 years, whatever it's been, that we've had We've had 44 different 7-game series with Wild and Timberwolves and Twins, or maybe even including some 5-game series in Twins.
I saw that.
And it's a small handful of times only that a Minnesota team has even had a 2-0 lead in a
Oh
series.
yeah, yeah. The Twins did it 4 times. The Twins were because they played at home in the World,
Yeah.
the World Series years. They were no wait, they weren't. When they went to Toronto, they were 1-1. Remember that '91? They were 1-1.
Yeah, no, it was it was the Twins against the Blue Jays last year. It was 92. The North Stars had a 2-0 lead on Detroit and blew it.
Ooh,
And then I think it was like the Wolves and Nuggets in 2004.
yeah, the Wolves did.
And then
win
like
the
this.
first two.
That's it.
Yeah.
The Wolves did win the first two against Denver, but that series turned kind of tough because Denver won game 3 out there and gave them a war in game 4, which is the one where Garnett threw the ball way up in the air and it came down and hit me in the head when I was typing. And then the embarrassment was how high the ball went after it hit me in the head. It went like way up there, 50 feet or
But
something.
you kept going, man. You kept going,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Then the next day I said, I'll settle for $100,000. We won't have to get the lawyers involved. And he said, oh, it was you. That's how come the ball went so high up in the air. He said after it hit you. That was back when he was still a decent guy before he turned into a complete jackass. But
I want him back at Target Center for a game. Wally
Yeah, I
Zerbiak
want
was there.
him.
Wally Zerbiak was courtside last night.
Wally looking good, man. And he had his daughter with him who's she looked, 12, 13 maybe? He had his daughter, an older girl. So he's, I remember everybody always kind of liked Wally, but it wasn't like he was a big hero in town here. But we all kind of like, what is he does Knicks post games now? Is that it?
And college basketball.
MSG, and then he does college. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Well, that's, but it was, at halftime, I thought you were gonna try and figure out who won with 12 seconds to go or something. I can't believe the way they ground them down. And yeah, there were a couple of times where one time over on the sideline when Booker just fell down because there was so many guys coming at him and trying to get him. He just kind of fell down and lost the ball. And how about now? Frank Vogel has kind of got this reputation as a fairly calm coach, right? He was going insane that one day.
He was.
How did he not get a tee in the first half when he ran and jumped and did everything, and then he got teed up later? But it was. I mean, he's a good coach, and he didn't have any solutions. That's for sure.
It would be if you're him and the Suns fans, and you saw those 3 regular season games, and you felt really confident, and then game 1 happens, and sometimes you can chalk it up to, okay, yeah, you're playing on the road. Of course, the other team is going to blitz you. So here we're going to make some adjustments for game 2. We're going to they got out rebounded. I think it was 52-28 in game 1. So we're going to fix the rebounding. We're going to come out with more energy, and we're going to put a phone call into the league so that the officials tighten it up and help our guy Booker. And by the way, all 3 of those things happened. The Suns won the rebounding edge. Booker got a better whistle. And they came out with more. I mean, they fell down 8-0, but they came out with more energy early, and they still lost. So it would be very frustrating if you're Frank Vogel.
Yes, it would. But what Booker is boy, if you can keep him frustrated, you're in pretty good shape, aren't you? So
yeah.
But the other thing is, we talk about, this is a really good defensive team. How did they become that? Because didn't when we got Finch, wasn't he like a offensive guru type guy? That's why you were getting him.
It's like the Brian Billick Ravens teams being great defensive teams or something.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah, Brian Billick, offensive genius. Okay, then we go to the Super Bowl. We hand off 6 times, and end up winning.
But Gobert's a great starting point. He's so dominant inside.
Well, and
I might have to rescind my statement that when I die, I'm going to have, right before I die, I'm going to have two questions. Is there a hereafter, and why did they make the Rudy Gobert trade? I'm going to have to
You're going to
take
rescind
point
that
B.
one. Yeah.
On B, I'm going to have to rescind that. I mean, I
But,
can't believe it.
but Pat, part of the reason why you felt that way is because the Jazz had two series against Dallas and the Clippers in the playoffs, and Rudy was kind of the scapegoat of, oh my God, you can't
Yes.
even keep this guy on the court. But there was a bunch of smart people on YouTube that do film breakdowns that we got into some of that 2 years ago, and they were showing it, actually, if you look at the Utah Jazz perimeter defenders, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, these random dudes can't stay in front of anyone, and Rudy looks bad at the end of the play because he's the one that's running around with his arms flailing. And that's not happening here because Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil
Yeah.
Alexander-Walker are out there holding the perimeter down. So it's
When
a
they're when
different
those
roster.
when you're sitting in the seats we sit in, and those two are on the floor, him and Jaden and Nikhil, and they're kind of both. You're not sure which is which until you look and see the number. Because I mean, Nikhil's obviously shorter, but they play the same defensive
Lengthy
way, man.
arms. Yeah.
Yeah, just a lot of what a pickup that guy is for free,
That
Nikhil.
was a kick-in. Yeah.
I know, kicking man alive. Say, I told you guys this before we started here, and the word's going to get out here in a minute. But Al Shaver has died. The family's released the news today, and Obed, I think he died on must have been yesterday. No, 2 days ago, maybe 22nd is when he died, and I think 95, 96, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
I did a column on him a couple of years ago, celebrating some anniversary, and just it was hard. His wife had died, and they were like really 60 years of marriage or something, and he was really he moved because he was so depressed living in the house they lived in Vancouver Island because it gave him too many memories, so he went to kind of a senior's place. But what I was thinking, Judd, as you're a kid then, a big North Star fan. I think he was a big reason we thought it was a classy organization, even when it wasn't. I
Yes.
mean, Norm got there, but you always had good thoughts of the North Stars because Al was the one delivering the message to you, right?
Yep. Well, and I mean, he was on the radio, the soundtrack
Oh
of
yeah,
that team, and that's back when teams had a soundtrack. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. No, right.
he was it, and I mean, what a great guy too. Just
Oh,
a
he's a good guy.
great.
And
I was
they
just
brought him back was it the first year or two with the Wild? Didn't he jump back in out of
He did a
retirement or
couple
no?
of. Didn't they have him come
No,
into a couple of games or
he
something, or
no
not?
he came
Appear as a
back.
guest.
He came back and was here for the dedication of the press
In the
box
press
in
box.
his
Okay.
name. But Bob Kurtz actually said a couple of times, "Hey Al, if you'd like to jump in and do a period," and Al being Al's like, "I got no interest, but thank you."
Yeah, that's right. He did.
But I mean, he
But
and Shirley went to Vancouver Island and did like theater. They
yeah,
did
they did.
plays. They did stuff. I'm because he retired when the North Stars
Fairly,
left. Norm said,
fairly.
"You can come," and he said, "No, thanks." And he went
No.
and basically said, "I'm done. I'm done." So
Yeah. He said to me he wanted to retire at 64, 65. I'm not sure how old he was, but I'll have to look back and see what I wrote. But yeah, I was thinking of that I never, in all the times I just talked to him or saw him or something, I never had an unpleasant, it was always like a great 3-minute experience talking to Al. But the other thing is, I've lamented the fact, you lament when you're at my point, you lament what you didn't do, to get a great piece.
sure,
And I always said, he and Sonmore, he did the Gophers for 3 years after the North Stars left. And he and Sonmore would drive every place but the CC or Denver. The rest of the Michigan Tech, places like that, they drive. Now he said, why didn't I get in the car and ride to Michigan Tech with these two lunatics and then ride back? You wouldn't have a column, you'd have a book Listen
Yeah.
to those two guys tell stories. Can you imagine those car rides? Just the two of them. Poor, and Sonmore talking at least 80% of the time for sure, but it would have been fantastic.
Oh yeah.
It would have been fantastic. Man, that was
Mm.
that would have been fun. But he was really a good guy. Remember Judd there in the press box that he always had above his head this little sign that says "Give score." He'd always get help. He'd always get a hard time for not giving the score. So, because old time hockey listeners, what's the score? They turn on, they want to know. It's not on TV. They want to
Yeah.
know when they turn it on what the score is. And Al had this little sign above his head, "Give a score."
Yeah,
That's
man.
awesome.
Was there
Good
ever, I mean, was there any chance or thought that he would go to Dallas after the team moved, or was
He
that just a
told them no.
non-starter?
They asked him, and he said no. As Judd said, yeah, he
Yeah.
just said
Okay.
he didn't. He gave me the reason for it. He said, "I'm not." He had family. He was set in Minnesota, and they knew what he wanted to do when he retired, and he wasn't going to. Plus Dallas, he's not a. He wants it to be cold in the winter. He's a Canadian, and where was he from originally? Somewhere in Canada, right? I know he was
Ontario?
in Canada. I'm
Yeah, I
not
think
sure where
Toronto
it was.
Yeah.
area.
Yeah,
But
I think he was.
The two greatest things he told me was when the North Stars went to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost in 81 and came back in 81, 82 with the "so close that we can taste it."
Yes.
He said that slogan was death. He said that was the worst
Yeah,
slogan I've
right.
ever seen. You're
Yeah,
tempting fate. And then the second one was he said, "The day I saw that Norm changed from the N to a star," he said they're gone. He said I knew they were gone.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
He but it is funny that like he was right too, because the 81 team was really good, but the 82 team was better, but they got beat in the first round, right, by the Blackhawks.
Murray Bannerman, Blackhawks goaltender, just stoned him.
Yeah, you go back and you look at that, and they've got out. What were they, like 40 points behind them or something? The
Yeah.
Blackhawks, the team that beat them. Yeah. Didn't Savard score the winner? Was it, or was that the next? No,
Oh, it's
was
very
that
possible. I
before
don't
Savard?
recall.
Yeah, I remember. But yeah, Al was, and he tried baseball too, Phil. The CCO wanted to take advantage of his popularity by
Yeah.
getting him on baseball, and he did about a week, and he said, "I'm no good at this," and he quit. He just quit. They didn't fire him. They didn't tell him he was no good. He said, "I'm no good at baseball."
Man,
So,
I'm currently looking through old promotional posters online of like WCCO's North Stars coverage, and there's one. It's a black and white, and it's Al Shaver with a hockey stick wearing a suit with the big collar,
yes,
and there's pucks, and there's someone else I'll refer to. It says, "Our stars bring you the North Stars." WCCO Radio 830, sponsored by Chevrolet and Western Airlines. Al Shaver and Steve Cannon are
Steve
on
Cannon, he
the
had Steve
billboard.
as his power. You
Man,
never lived until you heard Steve do the play-by-play on Gopher hockey. Number 17 passing over to 20 down here underneath the WCCO microphone. I've always said that's an unbelievable talent to announce hockey, especially on the radio, right?
oh my
And
gosh, yes.
and to keep up with the puck. But Steve never got to that part. He just learned numbers. So you
And
had to have a roster in front of you when he was doing the game.
and don't forget, Al worked road games alone.
Yes, right. Yeah,
They
Cannon
didn't
just did the whole
travel.
game. Well, no,
An analyst.
Cannon was getting too many free refrigerators as the were doing a daily show on CCO. They couldn't afford to put him on the road, for goodness sakes. So, but a lot of times he didn't have a partner, right? But except for the couple of years they gave him Cannon. And then he
For
got
home
Ralph
games,
at
he
the
did.
end. Then he got Ralph at the end, right?
Well, he had Mark Boyle, your guy Bruce Gordon,
Oh yeah.
but that was all
That's
home
right.
games.
Yeah, home games. Yeah, yeah. Mark Boyle the Boyle was still going like a year or two ago down in
He's still going.
Indianapolis. He's still going. I
Pacers
think he
games.
is. Okay.
He's been the
Hey.
voice of the Pacers for probably 30 years.
Yeah, he's a good guy too.
Oh.
All right. Well,
So
anyway,
Al Shaver,
Al,
man, legend, a legend.
That's sad news.
All
Great
right.
life, though.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All
See
right,
ya.
Pat. We will
All right.
we'll talk to you a couple more times this week. It's draft week. Reusse Unchained, presented by
Get out
Josh.
there. Get out there, ladies and gentlemen. You only have 2 more chances to see the Whiteys this week. Come on, get over,
Get
get to
to
the ball
Target
yard.
Field.
Yes. See ya.
Oh.
Goodbye.
All right, see you, Pat.